Let us begin. Hello, and thank you for listening to Blah Blah Comics, Blah Blah Curse Words, courtesy of the Night Nerd Network. I'm Derek.
I'm Colby.
And we talk comics sometimes, and oh my god, do we have comics to talk today.
Yes, and some major newsy. I tweeted about it nonstop for a while, and it was a news that it made my comic world, which is not only is Jardway writing Doom Patrol, not only is he kind of spearheading a new imprint, but the new imprint is Young Animal, and it has some incredible titles on it. So we're going to talk about that for a little bit.
Now, see, I can definitely agree with you on the titles. I'm not really 100% on the creative talent, because I really only know about 3 creators from their work that's been announced. But one thing I want to touch on that I really, really love is they're starting off the imprint with only 4 books.
Yes.
Which means that you can easily pick up this entire imprint and keep up with the entire little Wayverse
Exactly.
of the DC universe without, bankrupting yourself.
That's why especially when I don't know if they'll stick to the $2.99 guideline that Rebirth will, or I don't really, to be honest, I don't care, because if you're going to offer me, he's talked about in interviews that I've read where he just wants to make some crazy cool art, and that's what I, as a fan, have been looking for in comics for a while, because I feel like we've had some really cool titles, especially from Image, come out, and we've had a few here and there, like Vision or Gotham Academy, that kind of captured that crazy, quirky nature, but we haven't had just some crazy, awesome art comics in the mainstream in a while. I know it isn't really mainstream, but it's still a DC imprint, so it's close.
Well, it's a DC imprint that takes place in the DC continuity, which I think is a really important distinction. A lot of the best Vertigo comics came out after Vertigo had already left the DC proper.
Exactly.
The fact that they're moving back to the DC proper, I think, is really a fascinating and somewhat ballsy move on DC's part.
Oh, yeah.
I understand part of it's branding, because they want to keep, they want the DC universe to be the DC universe at this point.
Yeah, and I think you said it right there. The beauty of it is, by keeping it within the DC universe, but making it its own little subset too, it's so cool, because you take these quirky, cool characters that DC has, and when done right, they are some of the best characters DC has, plus throwing some new ones in there and trying to expand that, and it's a side of DC that we don't get to see a lot. I mean, the Doom Patrol alone, Doom Patrol has had some of the, I know we talked about it in depth, and we've talked about doing an entire episode about it, and we probably will, but Doom Patrol itself has had some of the greatest, not only superhero stories, but just plain comic stories of the past 40 years.
It's true. Everybody remembers that Grant Morrison was on Doom Patrol, and that rightly so. Grant Morrison's Doom Patrol is well remembered for being just batshit off the wall, crazy, innovative comics. But go back to the very beginning. Go read those Robert Kanigher issues from the 1960s, back when they seemed like weird X-Men clones, and those stories are still weird as fuck.
That's one of the weirdest coincidences in comics that everyone talks about, but it's worth noting, is how close in release date X-Men and Doom Patrol came out, and how oddly similar in different universes they are. It's so weird.
It's interesting, because it's not Man-Thing, Swamp Thing, where the creators were, living together as roommates at the time, and they just so happened to create muck monsters that very similarly ripped off an old Cartoon Comics character called the Heap. This was more like what historians tend to refer to as steam engine time. Have you ever heard that?
I haven't, but I think I'm familiar with kind of the theory behind it.
Yeah, basically the idea is, the patent for the steam engine was actually placed by something like 4 different people, all within the span of a few months, and none of them knew each other or had any idea of what the other person was doing, supposedly. It is, as with any kind of history, you don't know the exact record of what's going on, but supposedly it was just 4 or 5, a number of different people with dissimilar backgrounds who didn't know each other all came up with the idea of a steam engine at about the same time, and that's just kind of colloquially known as steam engine time. Just sometimes some kind of idea hits, and it's that time for that idea. And I kind of feel like that could be applied to the Doom Patrol X-Men coincidence. Basically, it was time for an offbeat, quirky team of heroes, and other than the surface similarities, guy in a wheelchair leading a team of oddball heroes, those books are vastly different, because especially the old 60s X-Men is boarding school heroes. They're men's adventure stories. And the Doom Patrol is just weird as fuck psychedelic 60s comics. I mean, you can hang it right next to Metamorpho, and it fits.
Well, that's what a lot of people discredit is everyone talks about Morrison's run, and as they should, you said it, it's amazing. But even me personally, I, of course, started with the Morrison run, but as I've kind of delved deeper into Doom Patrol and what they are and what they represent, and every issue I've picked up, I have found something that I kind of like in it, because I think it's one of those titles where people know they're going to do something strange and weird, so they let their mind just kind of go free and be like, you know what, I'm going to tell something weird that I can't do anywhere else.
Yeah, Keith Giffen actually had a really solid run on it. I haven't read all of it. I have the first collected trade. It's like the first 6 issues, but I've kind of read up on what happened. And more or less the idea was, you know, everybody likes to play Niles Calder as some level of bastard. And I think Keith Giffen actually nailed it hardest when he basically had the idea that the Doom Patrol are clones of clones of clones at this point. Basically, whenever the Doom Patrol die, he just grows some more and then keeps having them Doom Patrol it up. He's that big of a bastard. He doesn't care about their personal lives. He doesn't care about them as people. He has this team that he sees the need for, and he's going to have them around regardless.
Oh, yeah, and yeah, like you said, it's just every book has their own unique twist on it, which is heading back into what the main topic. Way has stated a few times I've seen that he kind of wants to, I don't know if it's exactly what Morrison did with Batman, but from what it sounds like, kind of do a similar thing where he wants to take everything at face value and kind of make everything connect.
Yeah, and I think that's what Giffen was trying to do.
Yeah.
But I can definitely see Way having a more... Well, actually, I see Way having a less reasonable explanation, but the less reasonable explanation being more entertaining and more fitting with the idea of the book, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Mm-hmm. I'm also really excited by the idea that they're actually getting to play with Flex Mentallo.
Yes, I mean, as a huge Flex Mentallo fan, I mean, some of my, back when we forever ago podcast did like top 10, Flex Mentallo was in both of ours, and the 4-issue and plus his appearances in Doom Patrol proper itself, everything he touched, I felt, was an amazing, really unique moment in comics that we'd never get anywhere else.
Right.
And to see it be brought back, and I mean, that's one of those characters that, like you said, it just hasn't been touched since Morrison, really.
Well, they couldn't. There was
Did they not?
There was all those tremendous legal issues with similarity to Charles Atlas.
That's right. I forgot because when it came out back in trade, that nice hardcover. That was a huge deal. I totally forgot about that.
Yeah. Actually, I kind of want to put a pin in this for just a second.
Okay.
I would like to do a listener poll.
Okay.
I really, because Colby, you and I have talked about kind of doing the Star Wars Minute style podcasting of looking at a comic one page at a time, and kind of talking about what goes on that page, how it relates to the story, how the art works.
Yeah.
We could probably expand that to doing, one issue at a time. And the first project you really wanted to tackle, looking at a full issue of a comic, was the Flex Mentallo miniseries, and just talking about it in depth, issue by issue, for that 4-issue miniseries. Oh, yeah. Would that be something our listeners are interested in? If you guys want to hear us really, really Grant Morrison nerd out about a work of his that not a tremendous amount of people have read. If you guys would like to hear us break down the Flex Mentallo 4-issue miniseries, comic by comic, issue by issue, over the course of probably at least 2, if not 4 podcasts, probably not our traditional length. I doubt we could go 2 hours on a single issue. I mean, we probably could, but there would be a bit of digression there. So if you would like kind of a mini-series special within the Blah Blah Comics, Blah Blah Curse Words omnisphere of talking, let us know. It's something we've chatted about doing as kind of a special thing. If you guys are down, if y'all are interested, please email us, tweet us. We'll put all our information at the end of the show, and let us know what you think. We're dead curious.
No, yeah, I would love to do that, and that's one of the few comics where I think, man, you could really, there's so much going on there. I mean, It's one of the only comics I've read where almost every time I've read it, I can't put it down. I mean,
right.
I can't go just one, it's hard for me to go just one issue at a time, because every time I read one issue, I'm like, oh shit, I gotta go, this something amazing happens this issue, I'll just read next one, and same thing.
And see, then, and that's why I think it would be interesting to actually make you read it just a single issue and take copious notes and make talking points and make discussion ideas and really tackle it from a scholarly point of view.
Yes.
And see if we can get an even deeper, richer read out of it than you've already experienced, which I know you've already had a very deep, meaningful read of the text.
Oh yeah, I stand by. Flex Mental is one of the comics I think changed not only the way I look at comics, but the way I look at just life in general, and I mean that. It's one of the few ones where you want to talk about mind-opening, and Doom Patrol's up there too. It's just a mind-opening thing, and that's why someone like Gerard Way, who it's one of the few other people that his comics have done that to me and for me. I'm really happy. If anyone's going to mess with Flex, I'm happy it's him.
Yeah.
And someone that has, of course, a lot of reverence for what Morrison did, but also is enough of an artist to take that and just do his own thing. And actually, I just realized we haven't even talked about past Doom Patrol. I'm just going to go through all the creative teams.
I was wanting to, absolutely.
So you have Way and Nick Darrington on Doom Patrol. Then you have Shade the Changing Girl, which Shade's, for those who haven't read any of the Shade stuff, it's amazing.
It's pretty much, I mean, it's arguably Peter Milligan's best work. I think the only real argument people have against it is people also hold Enigma in incredibly high esteem. But Enigma is 8 issues. The first 50 issues of Shade the Changing Man are all spectacular. Yeah. It was the book that launched Chris Bacalo's career as an artist. It got him the Death Gig with Neil Gaiman, which is really what caused him to take off. It is quintessential 90s Vertigo in the same way that Sandman is. And to bring that character back with a gender swap, I think is wonderful. And honestly, I'm actually kind of a fan of the weird, crazy Steve Ditko Shade the Changing Man comics from the 1970s, of which those were, somewhat loosely based on. So that's a tremendous legacy, and I'm really, really happy to see it back.
Yep, and of course the creative team being, I want to butcher names, but Cecile Casalucci, I'm sorry if I butcher that, Lucky, and artist Becky Cloonan, who, once again, originally I know there was a lot of talk and almost kind of confirmation she was going to work on Doom Patrol. I'm not sure what happened there, but I'm very happy to see her still involved in this universe.
Yeah, exactly. If we can't have her on Doom Patrol, I think a book like Shade the Changing Girl, just from the onset, from the title, from the basic concept of the series, really seems like a good fit for her creatively, probably a better fit for her creatively than Doom Patrol. So that's a book that I am just as excited to pick up as Doom Patrol. Honestly, I'm going to say it. I really, when I first heard the announcement, I was like, that sounds fun. I'll pick up Doom Patrol. But the more I dug into it, I'm going to try every book from this line. For various and sundry reasons, as we'll get into as we break down the rest of it. But, 4 books in the line, all of them have at least there's something about every single book that sounds enticing on some level.
Yes.
So, I'm going to give all 4 books a shot for sure.
The one with the possibly the coolest title, Cave Carson has a cybernetic eye with...
That's the title of the comic.
Yes.
Cave Carson has a cybernetic eye. I know nothing about this book. I am buying the book based on that title.
Not to mention John Rivera with, I believe, Way supervising or doing some kind of support. Of course he's doing support with all of it, but I think I'm not sure if he's co-writing or what. I know he's been mentioned a lot with it. Art from...
I've heard co-writer.
Yes, I've heard that for Mother Panic and this one. So if he's doing co-writing on all that, for one, kudos, got a shit ton of writing.
It is. I'm actually kind of disappointed to hear if he's co-writing Mother Night, but please continue.
Art from Powers co-creator, Michael Avon Oeming.
Okay, that's the other reason to pick it up.
Yeah.
Michael Avon Oeming is a gorgeous, tremendous artist. And I actually did not realize he was drawing. Now I'm doubly excited to pick up the book.
Yes. And then Mother Panic, which is the...
Mother Panic, yeah.
Mother Panic, which will be the only completely new character, I think. Cave Carson, I didn't know, something from the Golden Age, I believe. I had no clue.
30s character.
Yes, and I like, if Derek hasn't touched it, I probably haven't either, and I had not even heard of it. But Mother Panic also, so that's going to be amazing. But Mother Panic, the only like completely new character, and it's of course being written by Jody Hauser and Way with art from Tommy Lee Edwards.
Tommy Lee Edwards, good artist. Jody Hauser has been selling out the Faith miniseries for Valiant, and I've been picking that up, and it's a fun book. and I'm very excited to see what Hauser does with a, like you say, most likely original character.
Yeah.
Also, this is the one character that is actually spending time in Gotham, so.
Yes.
I like you said before with Gotham Academy, it's really neat to have Bat side books where Batman's reputation is the primary Bat character as opposed to Batman himself.
Yeah.
And I think the Shadow of the Bat, no pun intended, is going to make this an interesting book. I keep saying this is the book I'm second most excited about. Yeah. I said that about Shade the Changing Girl, but Mother Panic is also, between seeing Jody Houser's chops on Faith and the prospect of another Gotham book without Batman, Hitman basically.
Yeah.
Also has me tremendously excited. And then Michael Avon Oeming is drawing the coolest named comic in years. Yeah, everything about this line, there is something to be excited about.
That alone, something, of course, away from his music and from several things, he has always been good at presenting things in a stylish way that actually have depth to it. And names like Mother Panic, Cave Carson, the Cybernetic Eye, Shade the Changing Girl, and Doom Patrol, one thing they all have going, they all have such cool names that even people that don't read comics will just go, holy shit, that sounds awesome.
Right. And there's going to be I feel like there's going to be a lot of those because there's going to be a lot of My Chem fans who are going to, maybe they picked up Umbrella Academy, maybe not, but with the kind of media push that DC is going to give this, plus Gerard Way's name and his own personal promotional for it, I feel like we're going to get a lot of new and curious readers coming into stores looking for these books, and there's nothing but good that can come out of that.
We mentioned the tagline. We haven't mentioned it, but the tagline is Young Animal Comics for Dangerous Humans. Another tagline which is, designed to not only capture people, but capture, like you said, the people that they may not normally buy comics, they may not go into it, but it's people that probably deep down will enjoy comics. They just need an excuse to get in, and this could be that excuse, and that's what we need. We don't need a giant reboot every 4 years. We don't need all this other stuff. If you just give people their own kind of section of the world to go, I want to get behind this. This is my comics world. That's what Vertigo is for a lot of people. That's what Image has been for a lot of people. You mentioned Shade and Sandman and Doom Patrol, Invisibles, Flex Batal. It's because people can latch onto these characters and feel like they're really their own because they kind of belong and grow with them.
Right.
And that's what this could be, which I am so excited about.
And to get really super cynical, but honestly, I mean this cynicism in the best light possible. You kind of have to wonder if Rebirth was structured alongside the idea of Young Animals being an imprint for DC and also the weird, esoteric Hanna-Barbera reboot. All of those coming out at roughly the same time. It really makes Rebirth the somewhat unfortunate conservatism of Rebirth and the move back to classic characters actually looks better in the light of, yes, they did that, but they are also doing Young Animals, and they are also trying something, and most likely failing, but trying something with the weird-ass Hanna-Barbera imprint books, which I admit, I'm going to buy Future Quest because it looks gorgeous, and I'm going to buy Scooby Apocalypse because I'm a masochist. But, I mean, It's something we've kind of been talking about a lot in text lately. I picked up the first issue of Black Panther. I picked up Ta-Nehisi Coates' Black Panther, and I'll tell you what, I'm going to buy the hell out of the really super nice hardcover that's eventually coming. But I mean, it was a good comic, but it wasn't anything to write home about. Mm-hmm. And that's the best thing Marvel has offered me since prior to Secret Wars. Whereas DC, by God, they're trying. DC's hungry.
No, yeah,
DC wants it, and they're going to fucking try for it, and I can't be happier for them right now.
That's why I've mentioned for a long time that I do love so much Marvel characters, but right now the Marvel Comics, outside of like Vision, like you said, there hasn't Vision, Black Panther, and that's like the biggest one I can think of. For a long time, they'll try something, but then they'll pull back or they'll do something creative. I'm like, okay, that's kind of ruins what made this special. Where DCU, call it failure, call it whatever it was, it had a lot of interesting things. Even New 52, they were trying stuff to kind of grab people, and I respect the hell out of that. And I think, like you said earlier, by having Rebirth kind of set the tone back to these are the characters, these are the lineage, the legacy, the multiverse, all the stuff here. And then by having Young Animal to the side and having like Vertigo, that what they've been doing, and having these other side venues for people to go into and really claim their own and kind of make it feel. 'Cause that's the key to all this is you want people to feel like they're part of something. And where Marvel right now, you kind of, if you're reading, this is not a shot against Marvel necessarily because I do like Marvel, but right now if you're reading weeklies, reading all this stuff, you kind of just feel like you're getting the bare minimal that you can. You're not getting too much.
Well, you're getting product.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, it feels like product. And what DC, I mean, you and I championed the fuck out of DCU.
Yeah.
And I'm really sad to see that it did fail as hard as it did, because there were some genuinely good ideas and they were genuinely trying something new and different. But yeah, when I read DC stories, for the most part, I really feel like I'm getting stories by creators who are at worst misguided and at best passionate.
Yeah.
Even if they're not, even if DC Comics are the concepts are created first and then the creators are added in later, it still feels like they're trying to find creators who care about the product. And at Marvel, with the exception of very few, Tom King, who is actually now moving over to DC.
I know. I was about to say.
Al Ewing.
What proves to me that DC, at least most of the creators, are faithful and feel like they really care about the product, that there are a ton of people signing exclusives. Mm-hmm. And to me, that at least shows that if people are willing to sign exclusives, I know that there could be a ton of money behind it, but I do feel in the kind of climate we have in comics today, you've got to have faith in the company you're signing a deal with. You're not just, even if they offer you a ton of money, knowing how things come back and forth and change, I'm pretty sure DC is offering people their dream gigs to get this. So,
well, not just that. You're absolutely right. They are paying more. Did you see the price chart that's been posted online recently?
Ooh, I have not.
It was a breakdown it was a survey, and of course, it was based on just who was able to answer the survey and who was willing to answer the survey. So, I mean, these are not 100%. These are correct numbers. They are numbers to the best of our knowledge from an anonymous survey of creators. But it was every comics company, what they paid artists, writers, cover artists, inkers, letterers, colors, everything. It listed it down, and it was highest, lowest, etc. And I don't want to go into specific numbers, but I did, as a writer, I did kind of look and see what Marvel and DC did for writers. And I will tell you that the lowest paid DC writer makes 3 times as much as the lowest paid Marvel writer.
If that's true, sadly it doesn't shock me, because we've heard, for years, you even hear people like Morrison and a ton of people talk about stuff where when they do get into gory details about how even when they did it for the money, it wasn't always worth it because the money didn't add up.
Right. And then also, as in what's really sad, speaking of, even if DC's paying that well, Scott Snyder's gone on record and said that he makes more from Witches than he does from Batman, which is the highest selling comic in comics.
Yeah, I know a lot of too. When you go into creator-owned, which, well, I'll tie us back in just a second. With creator-owned, of course, you have more control. And speaking of awesome stuff DC's doing, Gerard Way still has Umbrella Academy 3 coming out through Dark Horse, which I do love to see them trusting someone with an imprint and trusting to kind of have 2 homes and let him do what he does at Dark Horse while trusting him to do it at DC. To me, that also shows a ton of faith in him.
Right, as opposed to Marvel, which makes Bendis do all of his, creator-owned stuff through Icon. Yeah,
exactly. But so I mentioned all those creators for Young Animal. I've got to say, I tweeted at all of them for an open invitation. And by the way, guys, if any of you are listening, completely open. If any of you want to come on the show ever to promote, talk to us about Young Animal, you can just talk the entire time about buy this book and why we should buy it. Please come on. We'd adore to talk to you and have you on here, even for 5-10 minutes, an hour, 2 hours, however long you want on there. Open invitation stands.
We'd love to have you, honestly.
Yeah.
We're big fans, and
yes.
we'd love to talk about the work.
Yes, and I'm not lying when I say this. It's been a weird couple of rough past weeks, and no joke, hearing the Young Animal announcement perked me up and has kept me perked for like the past 2 or 3 days. Like, it genuinely excited me to the point of I'm just like happy because it exists, and the fact that in a few months I'm going to get to read 4 comics that sound so fucking awesome. That's all. That doesn't happen a lot in comics nowadays. I mean, like here and there, you get some cool stuff, but to have all these creators that obviously care what they're doing and want to going on record saying they just want to make crazy cool art in comics. They want to kind of take what I love about comics, that punk rock nature, and throw it in the face. That's so cool, and I love that. I like it. Just makes me happy, especially with the name Young Animal. Something that almost sounds like a. I like that the name itself seems like it's kind of drawing that. It almost wants to poke at people, going, "Why are you reading a comic called Young Animal? It's for kids, and you know it's just get out there so people can go, oh yeah, you think this is for kids?"
Right.
And it's their mature branch of their world, which I love that too. Everything about it it's thought out, it's fun, it's cool, and that's what they need. They need something to kind of kick that door in and go, here, read a fucking comic.
Right. Yeah.
Which, yeah, Young Animal, I mean, we're still several months away, but I am so excited for the future of DC Comics-wise right now. It's unbelievable.
I'm there with you, man. The more I talk about it, and admittedly, the more I talk about it with you. Yes. But the more I talk about it, the more genuinely excited I'm getting. I think there's the potential for this to work is so tremendous, and it's so much bigger than anything anybody else seems to be doing right now. I mean, honestly, just after the Young Animals announcement, I also checked out the Image Expo announcement, and 2, maybe 3 books caught my attention or interest at all. And normally I come away from an Image announcement like, oh my god, I'm going to buy so many goddamn Image books. And this one is like, yeah, I'll pick up the new Rick Remender. Yeah. There was another one in there about aliens invading 12th century France that sounds like it could be pretty fun. I'll give that guy a shot. But I mean, nothing like where I was just like, yeah, this is an entire line of books. And honestly, I'm not even a My Chem fan. You know, Sarah is a much bigger My Chem fan than I am, and she owns an album. You know, I read Umbrella Academy. It was fun. I enjoyed it. I really need to pick up the sequel. Yeah, I'm not by any means a tremendous, crazy Gerard Way booster. Not like, especially not in your league, man. Yeah. But this is just everything about this sounds great. It sounds fun. It sounds cool.
Exactly. That's my takeaway. Even if I separate my my love of Gerard Way's work and art from it, it still sounds cool from the basis of it is that punk rock comic movement that we haven't had that doesn't... It's weird because it's coming from one of the big two, but it feels so uncorporate and feels so unique that I'm like, this is DC doing this? Are you really?
Right.
And I mean that in a great way because like we said earlier, we really feel DC's been trying, but this is the most moment of you're going... This is like, we mentioned Mike Kim, this would be like in 2005 going, oh, Green Day and Mike Kim are playing the Super Bowl show. How'd that happen? That's what it kind of feels like. It feels like you're giving... And like I said, a lot of the writers and artists behind this, some of them have worked here or there. It's so cool to see names that, you know, you don't always see attached to DC work attached to this.
Right.
That's the other thing. And I know with Rebirth they're doing that also, but man, these announcements, they keep on coming. They keep getting me excited, and we'll have to see. But as for now, on the pure excitement and hype level, man, it's out the roof.
Yeah,
well,
I agree.
So there's our 30 minutes on Young Animal. Once again, anyone's welcome to come on the show involved with that. But we have other news, sadly, to talk about, and it's all good news. But,
actually, one more thing I want to chime in on. The other reason that I'm actually really excited about Mother Panic.
Oh, yes.
Edited by Karen Berger.
Really?
Yeah. So the person who made Vertigo, what it was in the 1990s, is back at DC, and she is editing one of those books. Wow. So, I mean, how much more... Yeah. Let's recreate this time in comics can you get in a positive way, you know?
Dude, that's so true. I didn't even look at that. That is so true. And, God, I wish we knew more about these series just because the name alone, Mother Panic, for lack of a term, that just sounds like a badass band name at this point.
Yes, exactly.
Which is awesome because, once again, this is the most like continuity Gotham-esque book, and who knows how much that Gotham mythos will play in it, but knowing it's in Gotham, there'll be a ton. Or at least enough to where it justifies being in Gotham. But still, like, when you have a comic that you want a t-shirt of, that's just by name. I mean, that hasn't been done since Sandman and Invisible since I can remember.
Right.
Maybe a Cyclops was right, Magneto was right kind of stuff, but...
Saga.
Yeah, well, yeah, Saga and Wicked and Divine has some cool ones, but
Yeah.
all that.
But even then, you've already got preview art where you're like, okay, that seems like something I'd want to get.
Yeah, Mother Panic. I don't know what it's about. I want a T-shirt.
Yeah.
That alone says enough about. But actually, we'll continue going on with some DC news. So, on the DC movie front, the Suicide Squad new trailer came out, which I will say, I know David Ayer came out in an interview and said that the rumors about them shooting for more humor is not true, and I think this trailer proves it because there's actually a ton of humor in it.
Yeah, it's really funny. It's super delightful. I don't know what else to say about Suicide Squad at this point.
Yeah.
Every trailer has been progressively better, and the first trailer was actually pretty good.
Yeah.
Everybody I know is excited about Suicide Squad to some extent.
Yeah, I did love the Harley Quinn line because it was such a Harley Quinn moment. I know we've talked about, we both have written Harley Quinn essays here recently, so I did a ton of research on her, but the whole, if I find you vexing, I'm known to be quite vexing, just forewarning. It's such a fun Harley Quinn moment of just, yeah, that's her.
Yeah, exactly. And then when she's behind the bar, that also feels, because it feels almost motherly. And then also, if you really want to stretch your metaphors here, a bartender is also, you hear that old saying, bartender's one part bartender, one part psychologist. Mm-hmm. So the fact that she's sort of, to a certain extent,
true,
kind of going back to her I won't say redeeming her former profession. She's kind of touching back on her former profession in a way that works for these characters is delightful. I mean, that's the word that keeps coming to mind when I think about the footage I've seen from Suicide Squad. It's delightful. It seems exciting and fun and different in a way that you especially, but a lot of people that I've talked to have bemoaned the lack of in our superhero films.
Also, as a huge Scott Snyder Batman run fan, seeing basically the in-game version of Joker on screen already is kind of awesome. Because holy shit, when he's got like the half burned up face and throwing the grenade, that is, I know the comparison's already made a ton, but straight out of in-game, that's cool. And plus, like seeing Joker, we've seen Joker in several different ways, but seeing him kind of in a manner we've seen in the comics, but not necessarily in these films before. Mm-hmm. Like, I mean, to me, he feels like that character. Like they have said that this may be the more psychotic, calculated killer version of the Joker, and you kind of get that. Like, even just little lines like "all this chit chat's going to get you hurt" kind of stuff. Yeah, I feel like that's a Joker line. I do like them playing with the logo at the beginning of him laughing, and it kind of going with the logo and everything. It's a mirror of the first Suicide Squad trailer, which had the clicking DC for no discernible reason. I doubt it is, but I kind of hope that is actually how Joker's introduced in the film, because I did love him just laughing and kind of Harley going, "Uh-oh." Yeah. I did love that. The thing about Joker, what I think is, I feel like most Joker material in this movie is actually going to be flashback. It's going to be Harley Quinn's origin. Yeah. But he is going to play a part in whatever's happening in whatever city they're getting dropped off in. And that's another thing I love about these trailers. You get a lot of action beats, you get a lot of character beats, so we get an idea of who these people are. We still have no fucking clue what's going on, and I love that. I love going into this movie not having any idea why these characters are doing what they're doing, but knowing who these characters are. Mm-hmm. And that's awesome. Not getting away too much. It looks like Enchantress may be connected, or maybe the villain or something. I hope DC kind of stops trailers right now, just because that's a good place to end up on. Two, we mentioned the first time, Jai Courtney actually not only not annoying me in a movie, but actually kind of being like, oh, that actually looked like a funny little moment with him. Yes, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, everything, even stuff about this movie that doesn't normally work for me. Cough, cough, Jai Courtney, cough. Yeah. Sorry, I didn't know if you heard me when I was coughing. I said Jai Courtney. Mm-hmm. I really hate that guy. But he stopped trying to make Jai Courtney happen, but I'm okay with him. Yeah, and like you said, it seems like he's kind of making Jai Courtney not happen anymore, and he just doesn't, either it's him doesn't care it, or he actually found a role where he fits it enough to be himself and it work. Right. So that was That was fun. It's Suicide Squad trailer. It's kind of similar to the past trailer, so there's not too much to say, but fun trailer. Continues to get me excited. And
Yeah.
Cool. Next trailer. I know you just watched it. We talked a little before the podcast. The Doctor Strange trailer kind of hit, and it seems like it kind of hit with, I hate to say it, but kind of a thud. Like I don't see it. I don't the typical fanfare behind trailers. I'm not seeing behind this one, and
yeah, if I had to choose a word, just a single word, I would say underwhelming.
Yeah,
and that is as someone who really adores Doctor Strange.
No, yeah, I've said a million times I want a really fun Doctor Strange story I can get behind, and this trailer, it wasn't necessarily bad. It didn't do anything to grab me and make me want to go.
It was as bad, if not worse, than the first Ant-Man trailer.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking before how there's a lot of very Inception-looking parts, which you brought up a great point. That's a great way to show different realities and different versions, but at the same time, it's imagery that in so many people's heads is burned in as Inception. Mm-hmm. It's going to be interesting how they pull that off. I mean, the city folding over itself and reflecting a different city, although not exactly the same as Inception. I know a lot of people's first thoughts, and I saw it's tweeted a lot. That's why I brought it up. Was Inception.
Yeah,
and you mentioned it too. Is everything? Every actor is solid. The casting is solid.
It's a tremendous cast.
But yet, no one in this trailer made me go, man, I can't wait to see them as this character on screen.
Tilda Swinton is the Ancient One, just because I love Tilda Swinton and I want to see what she does with the role. Yeah. But you're right, it wasn't anything in the trailer other than, yep, Tilda Swinton is for sure the Ancient One, and I am very curious about that.
No, I mean I'm going to see this film because I do think there will be good aspects to it. I think I really want these. I'm sorry. I'm still in DC mode. I really want Marvel to really capture that spiritual, magical side that even in the comics they've never really completely captured, and put it in their movie universe and go along side by side this technology and the kind of Thor's magic that they have already incorporated, but put that up there too and add the spiritual element that we haven't really seen. And there are a couple moments in the trailer that give me hope that they're really going to play with that. But then there's a lot in that trailer I'm like, man, this really feels very origin heavy, which I know we haven't seen the origin of Doctor Strange, and I don't, even as a fan, I don't know if I've ever read the entire origin like in comics of him, but at the same time, I think we're to that point where we don't need to know beat for beat exactly what happened.
Right.
We want Doctor Strange.
I'm kind of hoping that it's the way the trailer's cut, it looks like it's an interspliced origin. And I kind of hope that's how they play it. I hope they do it non-linearly. I will say some of the visuals seem to be cribbing pretty heavily, I apologize, from the J. Michael Straczynski, Brandon Peterson Strange miniseries from like 2006 or something like that, which was not good. And I hope that's not the case, but I don't know. I don't know. I'm gonna see the movie. I'm still excited about the movie. The trailer did nothing to increase my excitement, and I find that worrisome.
Exactly. That's because this is another one of the movies where a lot of people are at that place of going, Doctor Strange, or do we really need a Doctor Strange film? And this should have been, or could have been, the trailer to make people go, oh yeah, we need this film. Instead, it kind of, people who didn't want to see the film or weren't excited are still not excited, still don't care about it, and people who were excited and want to see the film are at the same place. It didn't add really any momentum either direction, honestly.
Right, exactly.
It's just kind of, once again,
I want another trailer because this one didn't work for me. So I'm looking forward to trailer 2.
It is weird because I thought it was going to be a rather short trailer, and it's actually, I mean, it's a full-fledged trailer, but there's not really, I'm thinking right now, the only moment I can kind of think stuck in my head is, like you said, when with the Ancient One, where she kind of hits his chakra and knocks what appears to be his spirit or...
that's his astral form.
Astral form, there you go. Like I said, it's kind of late when we're recording this, but seeing that knocked out, I was like, okay, that's actually an interesting thing, but that's a very Doctor Strange thing to see and a very cosmic, cool, spiritual thing to see. Yeah. But the rest of the trailer is just kind of hinting at these other realities and hinting at the stuff where I'm like, okay, that's cool, but...
Yeah, lots of hints. It kind of reminds me of either the first or second Dark Knight trailer, where the only real shot you get of the Joker is from the back, and then that's kind of what you got at the end there with the cape and the giant window and from his Sanctum Sanctorum, and you're like, yes, that is what the trailer should have been made out of. You know,
I agree.
Red capes and giant, weirdly shaped mirrors and eyes of Agamotto and personifications of the universe.
The red capes are coming.
Yes, exactly.
Moving on to some other news really quick. Spider-Man Homecoming appears to be the final title for the new Spider-Man film.
Yeah, whatever. I mean, it's a Spider-Man movie. I'll go see it.
Yeah.
It's not a great title. It's a pun. I get it. Yay, Spider-Man's come home to Marvel.
Here's what I am excited about. The rumors are Marvel's in talks with Michael Keaton to play the main villain.
Yeah, and there's also talk that the main villain's going to be the Vulture, which would be hilarious.
Your poor Michael Keaton. He cannot get away with birds and flying creatures in his career.
Exactly. And I mean...
He does look
honestly,
like he plays a Vulture, though.
Yeah, he does. And he's got the eyes, and he's got the eyebrows that would really work. And, I mean, Spider-Man has the first or second best rogues gallery in comics, period. But they've already burned so many of the good villains. You know, we've done
2 Green
so
Goblins.
many Goblins. We've done Sandman. We did
3,
Venom.
3 Green Goblins. Sorry. I'm running in my head. It's like I said 2 Green Goblins and realized, oh, wait, we've done 3.
We've done 3 Green Goblins, yeah. I mean, really, the 2 super, super big ones that we haven't done anything with are the Vulture and Mysterio. Yeah. And maybe Kraven the Hunter.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think you could Kraven could make a good on-screen villain. There's a few.
To me, Kraven works best the way that Brian Bendis used him in his original Ultimate Spider-Man arc, which was the setup was that you had Kraven the Hunter as basically a Steve Irwin type guy who signs on to hunt Spider-Man as basically a television stunt, but also he's actually getting a lot of money to take down Spider-Man. And then Dr. Octopus ends up being the real threat. So Kraven is just basically getting in Spider-Man's way while he's trying to fight Dr. Octopus, and he's finally like, fuck this, punches Kraven once and knocks him out so he can handle the real villain. And that's kind of how, honestly, that to me would be the best way to handle Kraven. I mean, not that I feel the character is a joke, but Kraven is such a Steve Ditko villain that, I mean, John Romita barely made him work, and after that, the only real, I kind of hate to crib from Infinite Crisis, but the last time Kraven was relevant was when he died.
Yeah, and every other villain I could think of would take, because I know Sony for a long time were trying to get a Venom or Carnage thing going, but I think you have to establish some other stuff that takes a little bit to grow to get them really going.
There was a big rumor a couple of weeks ago that Sony was once again fast-tracking a Venom movie.
I heard that.
Which, I mean, that could work as long as you completely ignore the Spider-Man stuff and go straight to legless wounded vet Flash Thompson gets a mysterious suit that he can barely control that allows him to A, walk, B, go on missions, and C, has to deal with this raging parasitic creature that is now bonded to him.
Yeah, I mean, I think that'd be the most interesting take, but I think that's one step maybe too far for the general audience because a lot of people love Venom, but what they know is the 90s cartoon Venom, and it may be one step too far. It may be like the Mecha Rhino where people just go, nope, I'm out, whether they like it or not. So Spider-Man Homecoming, like you said, you're a huge Spider-Man fan, you'll see it, I'll see it because I like Spider-Man when he's really good, and I think they have the best chance of doing it. I like Tom Holland as Spider-Man from what I've seen and heard. So yeah, that'll be cool. Other news that's kind of obvious and kind of we knew it was coming, but it's still cool. It's confirmed. Ben Affleck confirmed the Batman solo film.
That he is directing. It didn't confirm that he's writing, and I was really hoping we were getting a Bat flick.
Yeah. Well,
acted, directed, written by. I mean, just make it his baby.
Yeah. Well, we do know he wrote a script not that long ago, so that's probably helped with something. Still, knowing that he's directing, I can't think of a bad movie he's directed. In fact, every movie I can think of he directed was pretty awesome. The
Town is one of the best movies of the last 10 years. I was not a huge fan of Argo, but that wasn't the directing. Yeah. I thought that the script didn't work as well as I wanted. Gone Baby Gone is gorgeous. I mean, Affleck, dude's a super, super talented guy, and
Yeah.
he's made his bones. You know,
Yeah.
he deserves the respect that he gets as a film creator. He's a good actor. He's not the best actor in the world, but dude knows how to make a movie.
Yep.
And I'm very excited to see what he does with Batman.
And most importantly, he's a good-ass Batman. So that's, if you have a Batman making Batman, I'm okay with that.
Yes.
And plus, we haven't had that. I mean, I was just saying for a second there, I'm trying to think of any superhero film where the lead actor was also director.
I think the closest you've gotten is Ed Norton had a lot of script, did a lot of script doctoring on the Incredible Hulk film.
Bad example.
For better or worse.
That's a stick away from that one. Fucking Iron Man.
Oh yeah, Favreau.
Yeah,
But he wasn't the star.
He wasn't the star,
He just gave
but-
himself a bit part.
True, but we'll go with that one. That's a better. That proves better things can happen. We'll go with that one for now, until we see the film. But yeah, I mean that's cool. It's like even the most negative reviews of Batman vs Superman seem to like at least Ben Affleck as Batman. Even it's a weird thing where they may not have liked Batman as he was portrayed, but like, but fuck, he made a good Batman under that cowl.
Yeah.
So better or worse, that's happening. Also, we didn't talk about it, but DC added 2 new movies to their movie slot. Oh, I think we talked briefly on the Batman Superman podcast we did with Lance, but one of those is probably Ben Affleck Batman now, and the other one is probably Suicide Squad 2 or possibly Lobo.
There's a big rumor, actually, that Warner Brothers is trying to revitalize the Tomb Raider franchise.
Really?
Yep, and that they are
Oh.
trying to pursue Daisy Ridley.
I would do that, especially the new games have been awesome, and they kind of regrounded that character and made her much more of an actual fleshed out character. So I can see that.
Warner Brothers is working apparently behind the scenes, working really hard to negotiate a contract around Daisy Ridley's Star Wars schedule so that she can star in The Tomb Raider. And that is supposedly the other big unconfirmed Warner Brothers movie.
I would completely be down for that if that's true, because I love Tomb Raider. Daisy Ridley, I like her. I think she has a lot of potential.
Absolutely, yeah. She blew it out of the park in, Star Wars, so
yeah,
I'd really love to see what she's got coming.
If she is Rey and then Tomb Raider, she is going to be like, as far as women icons go in America right now, if she pulls off Tomb Raider, that's like she goes to number 1 in my book at least.
Well, she will definitely be Nerd Queen.
She will be Nerd Queen. Awesome. That'd be cool. I hadn't heard that. That'd be awesome. So actually, we have one. Speaking of awesome women, we have one last thing to talk about, which is Grant Morrison's highly anticipated, been talked about forever. His Wonder Woman story finally came out.
Wonder Woman Earth 1 Volume 1.
Yes, I had a chance to, when it first came out, I went to a local shop, and don't worry guys, I pre-ordered it, but I did read most of it off of the shelf, and my copy finally got here today. You got yours and read it, so I've read it, but I read it quickly and off the shelf, but my copy is here. And you've read it in detail.
Yeah.
First off, can we just say, I know there's a lot of controversy behind it, but I think we're both going to come out from a point of we really, really liked it a lot.
I adored it, and I don't really understand a lot of the controversy, to be totally honest. I mean, it kind of goes back to what we were talking about 2 or 3 weeks ago on a couple of podcasts ago. It definitely feels to me more like, outrage. I have to be mad about something to be relevant on the internet.
Yeah, the problem is I think people in their heads have built up this idea of Wonder Woman, which the original creator, that's not what he was going for.
But Morrison manages to do that too.
Yeah.
He just incorporates the Marston stuff. For those who haven't read or who aren't really familiar, William Moulton Marston, the creator of Wonder Woman, and also someone who was involved in creating the original lie detector, ran a bit of trivia for you.
I had a lot of interesting stuff.
I'm sorry?
That's a lot of interesting stuff with that dude.
Yeah. He also lived with 2 women who were both with him and in their own relationship.
Well,
he was
he had his wife, and then they shared a young
girlfriend.
Yeah, a young college. They taught. Or no, I don't know if both of them were professors, but I know one of them at least was at the school, and a student, and they were both lovers.
Yep. And they shared that relationship, and also that relationship contains some bondage and submissive elements. And a lot of early Wonder Woman subtext evolved around bondage and submission.
Which,
And
what did he call? He called it. He believed, he was one of those people. He believed that women should basically be in charge, but they should be a loving master, the loving bond, or something like
Right.
that. Which once again, going to Wonder Woman makes a ton of sense.
right, and also is something that Morrison plays up very heavily, the idea that there is power in submission.
Yeah.
And that being chained or being collared or being, put to heel
Yeah.
is both a sign of respect and adoration and loved, and something empowering both for the master and the submissive.
Yeah, he does something that I've always found. As someone who like I said this before, I find relationships interesting. I find just how humans interact so freaking fascinating. But he does something which I've thought a lot about, and which I've seen people talk about, but I haven't seen touched in comics, which is what you just said, which is it is loving. It's a loving bond, and it's trust, and it's this ultimate sign of commitment. But you have to be careful who you're chained to and who you're following. And you should be following someone that you know you can trust too. It shouldn't be a slavery thing. It should be an equal, yet somehow submissive. Just a super interesting read on that.
And he also touches on that very heavily with Wonder Woman's mom in a way that I thought was really wonderful and spoke a lot to that character.
And I know that's one of the big controversies we can touch on. And one thing that it just came out, so we'll do a spoiler warning because who knows, but it's a Morrison book, so as always, it's kind of almost hard to spoil because there's not as crazy stuff, but there is some really interesting things.
It's layered. It doesn't feel Morrison in that it occasionally feels impenetrable, and his ideas are so fast and furious you can't really keep up. But there is layers to the text that require a deeper read and a more insightful read than just your average pass through a comic, I believe.
Yeah, and one of the more controversial points is he does give Wonder Woman a different origin, and it's and once again spoilers, but I think it's important to talk about the controversy that some people have with it. He gives her that she's essentially a daughter of Hercules,
right, and to a lesser extent, a daughter of rape, but from the way it's worded, Hippolyta forcibly took Hercules' seed and used that to impregnate herself. So, in a flip, she's the daughter of Hercules being raped.
Yeah.
Which, I can't lie and say I don't see the controversy in that. But what I think people are seeing as controversial is that takes away from the claim from what you've told me is that it takes away from Diana's womanhood to give her an actual father.
Yeah. The weird thing about it is, the rape isn't controversial. It's that she's no longer made of clay.
Right.
Which, to me, I know Morrison's gone on record, a lot of people have gone on record. That, to me, was always the dumbest part and most unrelatable thing about Wonder Woman to begin with is, I get that for a lot of people represented, she's purely a woman of no man. At the same time, it's like, that's fucking stupid on so many levels. I'm sorry.
See, I don't think it's stupid, but you're right. I think it is less relatable, and I think Morrison really goes out of his way to make a plot point of that because he talks about Diana feeling less than other people because she's not flesh and blood. She was this statue, she is not of a kind with her sisters and her lovers.
See, that is it. I think when I say it's stupid, I think it's because not only is it unrelatable to the reader, it makes her herself in this weird, awkward position where it doesn't fit everything else about her character for the most part. It kind of takes away from the aspects of her character. And like you said, in this book, it's this cool revelation. I know Azzarello played with it too.
And I kind of I'll touch back on that in a second. Go ahead.
And it was kind of, I was going to say, interview. It was kind of like a Doom Patrol thing. He was talking if he was influenced with that, and in all reality, Morrison was already working and writing on this version when Azzarello was doing his Wonder Woman run. They just didn't read each other's because Morrison had no clue when this would be put out.
Right.
And no one did because he's been talking about it for years.
Well,
and finally he's here.
Apparently, Greg Rucka was supposed to write it, and then he got booted off the project so Grant Morrison could write it, and that was actually why Greg Rucka left Wonder Woman in the first place. So this project has been gestating for like a decade.
Yeah, who knows? And this is one of those characters. It's kind of like Flash, where I know Morrison, he touched on Flash for the emergency stop storyline, but Flash and Wonder Woman were kind of two big characters that he hasn't really put his own stamp on in DC as far as the people that he wanted to talk about.
Right.
So that's, to me, it's cool to see that finally happen. But going back to what I was talking about her being unrelatable and all that other stuff, I think the whole Clay thing, it just, from the beginning, it almost made her, by trying to make her feel like she was above everyone, it made her feel lesser because, for one, it's Clay, and I know I love myth. In mythology, I get where that comes from, but in modern day myth, you hear someone's made of clay, for one, that just automatically makes them sound weak on a pure, like, dumb brain level that we all have. I'm not insulting him, I'm saying, as far as you look at the word clay, you're like, that's not tough at all.
Right.
I really like the idea of her there. And one thing I'll touch on here, I love the Amazonian world and like technology in this book.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Just everything about Themyscira in this book is really spectacular. I love the games that they play, and the light lesbianism and bondage subtext to the book.
Yeah, it's so good. I said it's so good, and I don't mean it like the pervy way. Just
no, it's appropriate for the subject matter, and it's not pervy. And that's actually another thing I want to touch on here in a minute. But it makes sense for an island that has not been visited by men for 3,000 years. That these women have these close relationships that do include sexual play.
Well, in Morrison, several interviews, he's talked about it that it's been 1,000 years. So at this point, everyone's been with everyone. Everyone's been in every position with everyone because you have 3,000 years on an island with nothing but women. Yeah, that's going to happen.
Healing ray that keeps you from dying.
Yeah, exactly.
Or needing to procreate. Which that's one thing I wanted to get back on. I really like how it kind of subtly retconned some of the creepier, less appealing aspects of Azzarello's run, in that the whole, every few years the Amazons raided a village, fucked and then killed all the men, and then used that to continue their species. Morrison still plays with the idea of rape in his own way. He plays with the idea of, legacy in his own way. But for him, it's, we just all use the purple ray. Purple ray makes us better. Everything's good. The island is full of the same people it's had for 3,000 years, and we all love each other, and everything's awesome.
No, and yeah, exactly. It's a very it's a very Morrison way of lightly handling this extremely dense subject, but because of that light handling, it allows for you as a reader to kind of dive in and make your own connections with enough of a webbing that he's created to really inform you.
Right. While also using the trappings of the Golden and Silver Age. Yeah. I mean, the Purple Ray is such... other writers have used it before. Greg Rucka used it in his Wonder Woman run. I think Gail Simone touched on it a couple of times. The Purple Ray has never really gone away, but I don't think anybody really took it seriously as much as they just like to throw it in as a nice Silver Age pastiche or a Silver Age nod. Whereas, to Morrison, it's an integral part of the story.
Yeah, it's Morrison's love of continuity and connecting things, where you just see him go, no, this is as important as the Lasso of Truth. This is as important as the Gauntlets. This is there from the beginning. Right. It's important. It was there. Why is it there? And him really exploring what it represents to the greater world it's set in.
Right, absolutely. And another thing I wanted to go touch back on, you mentioned earlier that the sex is nice without being pervy, and I think so much of that is at the feet of Yannick Paquette.
Yeah, I love his art always, but
and see, that's the funny thing. I'm actually not a huge fan of Yannick Paquette's art. Okay. I didn't really like him on Batman Incorporated. I didn't think it was the right fit for that book. His Swamp Thing was fine, I guess. I mean, I could always tell he was a skilled draftsman, and I could see the quality of his art, but his pages didn't really do much for me. Oh my God, he is the perfect artist for this book. He much like Francis Manapul and a few others, he's definitely taking a crib from J.H. Williams III with some of his panel borders, but his story flow, and also, more than anything, his character design is spectacular. I would rank him next to Cliff Chang as someone who manages to put across Wonder Woman's physique as powerful while still maintaining, a sexy, womanly shape. He made Etta Candy there's a character there. It's a full realized character. Morrison took great pains to make her a real person, and then Yann Paquette really feels like he went out of his way to not make her a parody, and not make her weight the central part of her character. I mean, she's a big person. She has a big personality, and that comes through in her facial expressions, in her actions, in her reactions, in her gesticulations, in the way she acts on page. All of the Amazons look, different. They all it's sexy without being exploitive, and that is such a fine line to walk, especially in a comic book. Yeah, and he does it beautifully.
It's so good, and especially one thing we haven't really mentioned, but the book itself. I love the the hardback that they include, like the sketchbook and stuff in the back, and
yes,
I'm DC's been doing that on like a lot of releases recently, where they include like some just bonus stuff in the back, and thank you, because I love that, and I love seeing the kind of behind the scenes stuff, because to me, I've always loved that. Now I hate when let me really quick side note. Marvel and DC have both done this before, where they'll do like one page of bonus stuff in the back
and charge you an extra $5.
Yeah, don't do that ever. But but stuff like this, where that's the other thing. I mean, for a hardback, it is $22.99. I think it's like $17 on Amazon or whatever.
Like 140 pages of story.
Complete a hardback at that price, completely worth it. The weirdest note that I will say about it, it is officially part of the Earth One lineup, which is still kind of weird, because I mean, that Earth One in general, no one completely knows how or if or why it's connected.
I don't honestly think it is. I think it's just kind of the umbrella under which these kinds of stories are being told.
I think so. I think it started off as trying to be this connected universe with Batman and Superman, but
right.
I think
once they threw Teen Titans in there, I think that just kind of put everything down.
With Rebirth, they also announced Jeff Lemire's Earth One Teen Titans Volume 2, which is that I'm excited about that.
I still haven't read Volume 1, but I've heard it's spectacular.
I heard
it. I heard it was the first really, truly, genuinely, unabashedly good Earth One.
I'll agree with that. I mean, like, I think Batman and Superman had great moments, but I overall didn't think.
Batman 1 was not great. Superman 1 was not great. Superman 2 was awful. I didn't read Superman 3. Batman 1 was fine. I still haven't read Batman 2. I will buy every single volume of Wonder Woman as long as it's this creative team, because I adore it. One more thing I did want to touch on.
Yes.
And I don't know, was this something that was controversial? Steve Trevor is a black man.
Kind of. I think there were two things that were slightly controversial about that. One is him being black, which that's to the segment of the population that is that big of a deal. I think get over.
Well, it didn't bother me, but I will say I thought that Morrison made it work rather brilliantly.
Yeah.
At the end, where Steve basically says, I've lived under subjugation before.
Yeah. I think that's the other thing is it does allow for some possibility of talking about histories in connection with bondage and slavery and all. So
yeah, thematically it works so much better than making Steve Trevor a white guy.
Very much so. And the other thing that's kind of controversial, and Morrison touched upon this too, is that I think it's more interesting. I know it's what Morrison did on purpose. I've seen interviews. And I think some people find it kind of weird because they hint that it may not necessarily be a like boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife relationship, and it may just be more of a, this may be a bad guy, who knows, and who knows if it goes past to an actual relationship. It's this point of some people are angry because they may have taken away the quote unquote her the boy she's chasing after kind of thing. And he may have been replaced with
ridiculous because that final splash page, and that's not something I'm going to spoil, but just everything builds up to that final splash page, and that final splash page is so Wonder Woman to me.
Yeah, that's the most awesome thing. This book, Wonder Woman, unless I'm thinking wrong, never actually throws a punch to stop villains. Like as far as like it's all her protecting, her helping. There's some other stuff, but like her saving without hurting, which is a really cool. Once again, it ties in with the whole idea really well.
Right. Yeah. For the thing about Wonder Woman that everybody says that she's this heroic and kind and peaceful warrior, and described by such contradictions that it's actually really hard to find the character at the heart of that.
Mhm.
And a few writers have, but it's one of the things that keeps her from being, it keeps her from having a line of books the way you can get a line of Superman and Batman books. It keeps her from having a real, at least until now, pop culture presence. Is she's a very complex character who doesn't have just a super easy through line or elevator pitch to sell the masses. But Morrison really does a great job of explaining why Wonder Woman matters in this in this book, and it ticks off all the boxes. It's I literally can't think of a bad thing to say about this comic.
No, I'm with you on that. My biggest compliment to it is, you said it right there. There's not a ton of great Wonder Woman. There's a few like great Wonder Woman issues, but it's hard. It's really hard to find an entire great arc that from beginning to end, or an entire story that is truly like great. I mean, go to your local library, to your local bookstore, comic shop. Look at the Wonder Woman graphic novel section. Tell me if there's more than 3 books there.
Right.
And it's not because she's not a popular character. It's because, I mean, right now, I can't. Yeah, I'm even straining to really think of truly great Wonder Woman stories. But I feel like this could be one that could open up the door to that, especially with being the Earth One title and being Morrison.
The first 2 years of George Perez's run, everything Greg Rucka did that was not stomped on by DC Editorial, and the Wonder Woman, Batman, the Hickatia, Greg Rucka prestige format hardcover graphic novel.
That and I know. Actually, I really dug the Brian Azzarello run. I think he did some great stuff.
And Brian Azzarello's run.
And I know the Azzarello run you can find in a lot of places because it's fairly recent.
Right.
But outside of those, like you said, that's a handful. Where if you ask that same question for Batman or even Superman or anybody else, it's like you go to the section. It's hard to, like, even today. I went to the section when I was picking the book up and just looked at Superman, and because of Batman vs Superman, not only is Death of Superman back in print, but the entire storyline is making these 5 graphic novels giant Superman symbol, which is awesome. I will say.
Yep.
But like that alone, every bookstore in the world is going to have that right now because they're reprinting the stories. So you have 5 fun rides, but even Wonder Woman, when they're reprinting stories, I've seen Gods and Monsters reprinted mostly because of the Blu-ray. That comes the Blu-ray package deal, and that's Perez and Wayne, Len Wayne, I think, is it?
Yeah, I think Len Wayne's involved. Yeah, he might have edited, or he might have helped co-script a few issues.
I'm not either way, but that's out there. Instead of that, it's cool to see a book that because it's Morrison and Earth One, it's going to be in bookstores for a long time. So that alone makes me excited for Wonder Woman.
And it's also, we kind of talked about this when they finally announced a release date for it. It definitely feels like they're trying to strike with the iron hot of the Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman buzz, and they couldn't have picked a better book to capitalize on people being curious about Wonder Woman.
Because everyone's curious right now, and her origin movie is coming out next year, but hasn't come out yet. So a lot of people will be flocking to buy a quote-unquote origin book, and this does cover that.
Yeah, I'm slightly hesitant to hand it to a small child because there is a level of sexuality to it that maybe a 5-year-old couldn't process.
It's a PG-13 movie that they would have seen, so I'm going to throw that in there.
Okay, fair.
I would hand it to a 13-year-old.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh yeah, I would hand it to a preteen or a teenager or a young teenager for fuck's sake. Sure, yeah, absolutely. I was just thinking, God, I bring them up every episode now, don't I? The Wait What guys, Jeff has a 4-year-old niece who adores Wonder Woman, and she's probably, she is not the target market for this book.
It's also Morrison,
yeah, exactly. So, give her 7 or 8 years, and I will personally mail her a copy. But right now, at this moment, she should stick to Scooby-Doo Team Up.
Yeah, well, like we said it earlier, talking about how Wonder Woman's origins came about, the people that wrote it and stuff is. It was always meant to be a character that had more layers and had more sections to it and more sexuality to it than Batman, than Superman. It was always there, so to bring it to the forefront and say, this is what this character was kind of meant to represent, and here, of course, is my spin on it. I mean, a lot of people may not want to admit it, but that's where Wonder Woman came out of. There's no... flaw in that. That's where the character came out of, and Morrison is respecting that and just kind of adding a twist to it, but also putting Wonder Woman in a light that we haven't seen her since the 60s.
Right.
But yeah, so Wonder Woman Earth 1, you're not going to hear us say anything bad about it. Go somewhere else if you want to hear something. Let's be honest. If you want to hear someone say something bad about Morrison, probably go somewhere else to begin with, because I don't think, outside of you not adoring Klaus number one, that's the closest we've ever come to saying anything bad about Morrison, I think.
It's true.
And it will probably continue that way. This is a hate-free zone for Morrison.
It really is. I mean, I still haven't. I wanted to in January start my big Morrison read/reread and just kind of hit all the big Morrison releases that some of which I've read, some of which I haven't, and kind of track his career. I'm going to put that off. I'm thinking maybe trying it in 2017 because I've got my big project for this year has ended up being, and I haven't even really started seriously researching that yet. But as I've mentioned before, my friend Shelley and I are going to be doing Assembling the Avengers, which is going to be a minute-by-minute rewatch of Marvel's The Avengers film in the style of Star Wars Minute. So come, hopefully June, you'll be hearing that coming out of the Night Nerd here as well. And then maybe in early 2017, if we can start posting on the Night Nerd blog, or maybe start our own Blah Blah Comics blog. We'll see. Yeah. I'm going to do a big Morrison reread and talk about going all the way back to Zenith, which is going to be the earliest book I'm going to tackle. But I have all 4 volumes of Zenith, and then moving up through his career through probably Multiversity 2. Depends on what exactly he's put out by the time I'm doing the read, because I'm going to have to put a stop point on it, regardless of the fact that the man is still creating comics.
Yeah, that's the problem with him. Morrison's one of those rare writers where he will have years where he'll have a monthly coming out and 2 original graphic novels and creator-owned and all the stuff, and he'll have 2 years in a row where he doesn't do anything.
Right.
So
his first edited issue of Heavy Metal comes out in a couple of weeks.
See, that's going to be a hard one. Do you include any of those on there?
I'm going to pick up the first issue, and we'll see exactly how much he's involved in it.
That's true, because, I mean, that could, like you said, if he's purely editor and doesn't have any co-write, it's like, oh, who cares? I mean, I will still care, but as far as the reread, it's not essential.
Right.
Really quick, we mentioned movies. I will say, I just came out seeing Hardcore Henry not that long ago.
Yeah, I'm very super looking forward to seeing that. It looks like a lot of fun.
It really is. I won't spoil anything for it, but yeah, I think as someone who loves video games and adores the best and worst parts of video game stories, this has those, and it's a really unique, fun action movie that I'm excited we're getting. Period.
Yeah, that's why I want to see it. It's definitely a unique cinematic experience that I want to give a shot. I'm very excited.
That's how I would put it. Anyone who wants a unique cinematic experience and go in and you're watching essentially a live action video game, but with some awesome action. And anyone who's a filmmaker should see it just for the fact of, God, I'm impressed by the stuff they pulled off with essentially, for anyone who does filming knowing, the entire film is shot through one camera angle, meaning anything messes up in that one angle, you can't cut to another angle to save the scene. If that angle's messed up, you're effed. You're out.
And there's just a ton of... I can't believe you just said effed.
I know.
The name of this podcast says curse words in the title.
I know. I've said too many this podcast. I won't have to get bleeped out again like last podcast.
Okay. So, fair. So, I forgot what I was going to say. God, I'm tired. Yeah.
Poor Henry.
It was amazing. It looks amazing.
Yeah, it was fun.
I'm very excited to see it.
Exactly. Great action, great fun stuff. And like I said, we've been on a while, and we talked about Young Animal. We talked about Earth One. We talked about trailers and stuff. Once again, Young Animal being the main topic. Excited. Please come on the show. Quick wrap up there for someone who apparently just listened to the last 5 minutes of the podcast in my head that one needed a wrap up.
Totally. And then, like we said earlier, for our listener survey feedback, please, if you want to hear us do a quick little mini-series over a month of just... Basically, that's what it would be. We do a month of Flex Mentallo. We do an issue a week where we would read an issue in depth, take notes, break it down, talk about it amongst ourselves, and really dig deep into a lost, forgotten classic that is only been available to the wider public for a couple of years now. Let us know. Let us know. You can shoot us an email, blahblahpodcast, all one word, at gmail.com. You can hit us up on Twitter, where I am at VoodooBen, all one word.
I'm at HellhoundF5.
You can also just shoot the podcast a Twitter. It is at Blah Blah Podcast on Twitter. You can find us on Facebook at Blah Blah Podcast. You can hit us up on the Night Nerd website. Anything that goes on there, we will be informed is there. So if you want to shoot us a note through them, that would be awesome too. We really want to know what you guys think. Let us know. Hit us up. And as always, guys, we love you so much. Thank you for listening. This has been a blast. The new station has just been everything we've ever wanted and more. This has been amazing.
Yes. Thank you guys for listening so much.
And y'all have a good night.
Bye, everybody.